Good afternoon, friends. I am Dr. Saurabh Verma. I am the head of department in the Department of Spine Care at Manipal Hospital, Dwarka. Today we shall be just briefly discussing about the low back pain, its causes, its management, and its prevention. So low back pain, as the masters call it, is the youth leaving your body. So 87% of the young people are going to have back pain once in their lifetime. How common is the back pain? So it is estimated that 80% of the people will have low back pain in some point in their lives. The most common cause is a work-related disability. It is the most common cause for visiting the primary physician after the respiratory diseases. It is that common that every fifth person near you is having back pain. It usually has a bimodal peak affecting the young adults in the age of 30 to 50 years and elderly over the 60 years. Coming to comparison between the incidence of back pain in males and the females, it affects both males and females equally. But if we include the menstruation and the pregnancy-related back pain, then females are more affected. The most common causes for low back pain are broadly divided into mechanical type, which constitutes the most common type of back pain, and it is estimated that it accounts for 85 to 90% of the patients which we are seeing in the OPD. This includes the muscle strain, spasm, osteoarthritis, herniated disc pain, in old age spinal stenosis, and compression fracture. The primarily feature of mechanical pain, as we discussed, or you can broadly estimate it from, is any pain that is increasing after exertion and is better after rest is a mechanical pain. However, if the pain is more at rest and it increases and it gets better with the activity because of the muscle spasm or the sport of the muscles, it usually falls into three criteria, in three types. It may be an inflammatory pain, an infective pathology, or a tumor in rare cases. So mechanical causes of the back pain being the most common cause, we shall be taking care of that as a primary mode of discussion. The pain can arise from the vertebral body, which may be due to a bone fracture or a pathology in the bone, a muscle spasm, which is the back spine paraspinal muscle as we call them, or a muscle tear because of any injury. The most common cause of, however, back pain is a discogenic pain, which we most commonly cause as a slip disc. So do we need to see or consult a doctor every time, or you need an investigation for every episode of back pain we have? The answer is no. The answer is no. So the most common cause, why do we not see a doctor in the first place? Because most of the patients of this back pain will have a severe excruciating pain in the first few days. However, there is a good chance the pain will settle down over the period of, the first week it will get better, and it will be, settling down in a period of 8 to 12 weeks. So back pain, on the OPD basis, we classify them into two types: the acute type and the chronic type. So any back pain which is lasting for less than 3 months, we call it as an acute back pain. And any pain that is lasting for more than 3 months, we call it a chronic low back pain. So 3 months is the expected duration of time when the natural healing, will settle your back pain. And only 15% of the cases will progress from the acute to the chronic phase. So it is important for you to understand that when do you need to see a doctor. So there are certain red flags or warning signs, as we call them, in which you must consult a physician or a spine specialist as soon as possible. The most common incidents being a significant trauma, if the patient is on chronic steroid use or is an osteoporotic age, if the patient is running fever, has a urinary tract infection, is an IV drug abuser, or is suffering from any immunosuppression like HIV or something. Also, the patient must understand he needs to see a doctor if he has a previous history of the cancer, or even if he has a family history of cancer, he's undergoing an unintentional weight loss, if the patient is having a loss of control over the bladder and bowel control, or there is a significant loss of the motor or sensory problem, or there is a sensation loss in your private parts, that is the groin and the buttocks, that we call as the cauda-equina syndrome. These are the only red flags that are most commonly involved in the spine, and one must consult the physician as soon as possible. So the most common cause that we encounter during our OPD visits is a sciatica, that we call it. So any pain that it arises from the back and going down your leg is called as a sciatica. It is named after the nerve, sciatic nerve, that goes from the, arises from the spine and supplies the leg. So the most common risk factors for back pain are smoking, obesity, stress, depression, occupational hazard, and a sedentary lifestyle. The risk factors which are the problems which aggravate your risk factors are the job dissatisfaction, a job involving prolonged sitting or abnormal sitting posture, which we are most of us are facing in day-to-day life. So how does it impact our daily activities? So impact on back pain on the family and the personal life, it limits the performing of activities of daily living. It diminishes your social activities. It gives you isolation from friends and the community, and increases your medical care expenditure. So the most common investigation that we get done when the patient experiences a back pain and is not relieved by conservative medicine includes an X-ray and a more detailed MRI scan. One has to understand that the mere presence of a slip disc on an MRI does not has any significance, because 80% of the people of their respective age are going to have a significant disc bulge or a degenerative change in their MRI, and we are not concerned with that. So the only reason for getting an MRI done should be that whether your clinical findings are collaborating with your MRI findings or not. Otherwise, a mere presence of disc bulge with no collaboration has no significance. So a gentle request to all of you. So don't be a Google doctor. If you have red flag symptoms, please feel free to consult us, and do not run from doctor to doctor. So the management of back pain can be broadly classified into non-operative or an operative group or a preventive group. So one can see the diagram on your right that the conservative treatment, that the non-operative treatment comprises almost of the 80% of the treatment protocol, and surgery is indicated only in 10 to 5% of the cases. The non-operative management usually includes a rest for a short period of time, hot fomentation or ice fomentation at the diseased area, a medicated gel, over-the-counter painkillers only for a short duration, physiotherapy once the acute phase is over, and in 10% of the cases where the conservative management above given does not relieve the pain, we give spinal injection, which may be a root block or an epidural injection or a facet joint block. While preventing, and the important part of the back pain management comes with the prevention. So one has to do regular exercises, which include your flag exercises, back arch exercises, swimming, a bird dog exercise on the table, and child's poses. The most important one must understand, if between yoga and walk one has to choose, the aerobic exercise have a better outcome than compared to yoga. So one must walk. That's the simplest exercise. So the aim of walking should be a 40 minutes or 4-kilometer walk in one go. But it is important for you to understand that you should not acutely increase your walk. So if you are comfortable walking 10 minutes, just keep on increasing 10 steps every day and give it time for about 6 weeks and you will reach your aim. A strict bed rest or a lumbar belt is given in an acute low back pain situation. However, it is not advisable for a long duration because it does not allow your muscles to grow. So it just gives your spine a support so that the acute phase is over. But it is much important for you to understand it is not advisable for a long duration. All over the world, the international study quotes that when you are bed resting or not mobilizing, in a 1 week time, the muscle strength decreases by 5%. And to regain this 5%, one has to do vigorous exercise over the period of 3 months. One should emphasize that one should keep a healthy weight. The target BMI should be between 8.5 to 25. One should eat a healthy and a balanced diet, avoid junk food, a regular intake of calcium and vitamin D, and 15 minutes minimum exposure of sunlight with exposed arm and legs. You should maintain a good standing posture. Your head should be erect, shoulder and hip should be aligned, abdominal tucked in, knees and ankles slightly flexed. Your feet should be slightly apart and toes should be pointing forward. Similarly, the sitting posture, that is most important for all of us because most of us are into sitting job these days. Ear aligned with the shoulder, screen should be at the eye level, the shoulder should be relaxed, the elbows supported and at the same level to the keyboard. Sit back in the chair and your hip should be exactly touching the backrest. Knees at the level of the hip and feet flat on the ground. It is important to emphasize that the disc pressure in the spine is maximum while you are sitting. So one must emphasize that you should not sit for a prolonged period of time in one go. So it is advisable that every half an hour you should change your posture. Coming to the shoes, what kind of shoes are better for back pain management? So it has been seen that a heels less than 1 inch create a more stable posture on the lower back as compared to the flat or high knees. An important part is that one should avoid smoking because smoking increases the risk of osteoporosis and also it gives less nutrition to the intervertebral disc, so it degenerates faster. Last but not the least, one should have a good control over the stress and the depression management. So one should sleep well, meditate, and take help from the physician as soon as possible or whenever needed. Thanks. You can contact us on the Facebook or WhatsApp or on email.
Hello and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dr. Athia from Physiotherapy Department of Manipal Hospital. I will be discussing about try to make you understand about some facts on the back pain and how to manage it at home or what are the treatment options available at hospital as well. So basically 80% of adults in third decade, like 30 to 50 years of age, experience back pain at some point of time in life. Same way, overall prevalence increases with age just because of like poor functional strength of the muscles as well as the poor posture. The lack of vitamin D in body and other nutrients also leads to all this musculoskeletal or mechanical back pains. Men's and women's are both equally affected, and it is the fifth leading reason why most of the people are visiting the hospitals. And usually nowadays it has been seen that this mechanical low back pain is because of the work related postures and home postures which is not suitable for the body and have undue pressure on our low back muscles as well. Out of 10, most eight people suffer from this low back pain, and 95% of patient has a 95% of prevalence in the patients with age of 50 to 65 years of age. Usually, mechanical low back pain covers the larger area. 80 to 90% of the patients have a mechanical back pain, maybe due to a ligament sprain, maybe due to a muscle strain, maybe due to some weakness in the muscle, or maybe due to the imbalance in the muscles as well. 5 to 15% are neurogenic pains due to which we normally call a slip disc or any other problems as well. Like neuroma or maybe a tumor as well. Non-mechanical spinal condition 1 to 2% only. Visceral pain, maybe kidney or gastrointestinal problems also have cause pain in the low back area, and other basically most of the females are having a fibromyalgia problem which cause the chronic low back pain as well. First we'll discuss about this is basically PIBD, which we call as a slip disc. It is most common due to a back posture, overweight, obesity, and undue pressure on the back while twisting, bending a lot. Most of the females used to lift the bucket while washing clothes. They used to bend from the back. That way, it's caused a PIBD, prolapse intervertebral disc problem. So basically in this, they experience a pain and radiating pain in the leg, feet, and even in the gluteal area. Sometimes they also feel increase in the intensity of the pain while they are coughing, sneezing, and all. So it is one of the cause that can one of the factor that can cause the low back pain. Then we have a gluteal amnesia as well. This is the most unidentified problem is there, because while we are sitting for too long or standing for too long, we are not activating our gluteal muscles. So it also causes a mechanical low back pain, and most of the people are experiencing a pain while getting up because their gluteal is not stabilizing the lumbopelvic rhythm while they are getting up. Even after prolonged sitting, they feel numbness in the gluteal area. Sometimes pain radiates to thigh area, back like till knee, back thigh area only. And due to this, it will also cause a problem in the upper back area, usually this scapular regions, because they have a close kinetic chain linked to each other, and there is muscle weakness as well, and it leads to a problem in upper back area as well. Gluteal amnesia is also a kind of problem which is usually patients who has a desk job will suffer from this only. Next, we have a quadratus lumbar strain. Usually, like people avoids this because we have a habit of sitting to one side of the body by crossing the leg as well. So usually there is an imbalance between both sides of the quadratus lumborum, and it causes a chronic back pain. Sometimes it is similar to the like radiating pain because ultimately each muscle, each joint is interconnected, and it ultimately leads to a sciatica kind of pain. So need to assess, need to take care of the posture while sitting, while lying down. Have a whenever you are walking, try to put weight equally on both the feet, and use a proper footwear as well. This is one of the most common problem in females because due to the laxity of the joint, this is sacroiliac joint dysfunction, in which the problems start due to the because basically the sacroiliac joint is supported by the ligaments only. So with this, due to the laxity in the females, they develop the dysfunction of this joint, which ultimately leads to a sharp shooting pain, and it also travel to a buttock, feet, and so basically we try to differentiate by palpating it. We try to differentiate by like assessing the asymmetry between both the limbs. So we can also work on SI joint, and sometimes the pain is not neurogenic, it's just a joint malalignment, and it can be cured easily. So basically, for all these kinds of problem, we usually screen the patient, take the history, because half of the history will take us to the provisional diagnosis. Then we do some physical examination, palpation, some functional testing, some range of motion testing, everything we did. After that, there is a functional activity evaluation questionnaires form, and then segmental functional assessment like lumbar joint, hip joint, because sometimes due to a flat feet also, patient may experience a chronic low back pain. So we need to take a proper functional assessment of each joint, which is in close vicinity to all low back area, basically a lumbar area. Then the quantity or severity, the sharp shooting pain, numbness, tingling, all these can give us an idea about what will be the cause of the pain. If you have a numbness and tingling sensation, that it might be a neurogenic pain. If you have a like chronic aching pain, it may be due to muscle or soft tissue injuries or soft tissue. Sometimes we have a limited range of motion, but our muscles are have proper strength, maybe due to our spasm of some muscles. That's why we need to have a clear idea about the severity of the pain, quality of the pain, whether it is radiating or not, the area of the pain. Sometimes due to gluteal amnesia, we may have a posterior knee pain, because trigger point are formed at those areas. So we need to look at each and every point. Even some like SI joint pain has a sharp shooting pain when you get up, just because it get aligned while changing the position. So it is the special character of SI joint pain. Timing of the pain, morning stiffness, and or you have like sometimes patient may complains that our pain subside once we start walking. So all these are very important in these kind of thing. We ignore red and yellow flag signs. These are some reflex testing, nerve testing. We have a special test for like differentiating between the muscles and nerve problems. If these are all the, like, after taking a proper assessment, history taking and doing examination, we come to a particularly, we divide the back pain into a certain categories from where actually the pain originates, whether the muscles are impact. Sometimes the ligaments also get affected, that may cause instability in the bones, and ultimately it leads to a problem, back pains as well. These are all flexibility testing and all. So basically, treatment or management of these pain is, first of all, we need to restore the optimal postural alignment, because with this, most of the patient come with a loss of lordotic curvature or loss of the cervical lordotic curvatures, exaggerated kyphosis. So we need to restore the first postural alignment, and we need to correct the biomechanical alignment as well. Secondly, we need to work on the muscles which are the dynamic stabilizers for all the joints. We need to facilitate neuromuscular control by approximation and other activities. Then we have to work on the range of motion. Then dysfunction, if there is any functional limitation, we need to work on that. And then flexibility of the musculature. So basically, we have joint mobility. Basically, if there is no movement, so we need to work on passive elongation by stretching and giving a manual mobilization to the joints as well. There is a manual AP gliding in the lumbar area. We can work on that. We have some thrust mobilization techniques. We have even dry needling can also help to release the tight musculatures. If there is extremely hypomobile joint, slide, so we need to work on the according to the range of motion, and by this we can help to stabilize the joint and regain the mobility of the joint. These are some exercises, basic exercises. All those who are not having an enterolisthesis problem and any other problems can do all these exercises. If they have a chronic back pain or if they have a slip disc, these all exercises are helpful for them. Remember that for any flexibility exercises, you need to have a proper repetition, at least 5 to 10 repetitions with a hold in that. At least 10 to 15 seconds hold should be there. While doing any movement or doing any strengthening exercises, try to hold that position for at least 10 seconds. And once you are comfortable with that, try to increase the number of repetitions with that. Remember that lower limb flexibility and core stability are interconnected. So we need to work on lower limb stretches as well and core strengthening, abdominal back extension and everything. We need to work on that. So you can do Superman. It will definitely gonna help you a lot, because which is the multifidus muscle, which is the stabilizer of the back. It helps to improve that the strength or stabilization of the lumbar spine. So try to do Superman at least 10 to 15 times in a day. Then you can do prone extension exercises in PID, even in mechanical back pain. You can go for all these exercises as well. Then we have like electrotherapeutic modalities available in the department as well for low back management. Usually IFT and TENS work to reduce the pain and inflammation, and remember that its effect is always temporary. Second, ultrasound is available, traction is available. We have a great fold laser therapy. It improves reduces the time of inflammation and healing process. It accelerates the healing process, and ultimately it's help in tissue healing also. Now the manual therapy, we have cupping therapy, we have dry needling, we have manual mobilization techniques, soft tissue techniques. All these are available for low back pain. Just in this case, one need to understand what kind of pain he or she is experiences, right time to go to the physician or any therapist. And third thing, you need to assess your functional mobility for the whole day, because once you are we are taking the like history, you need to give a proper history by saying in which moment you are having a pain, in which posture you are having a problem, why you are having a problem while getting up. Everything needs to be aligned. And if you have any activity which required your like forward bending or like twisting of the back, so you need to have an alternative for that. So once you, if you are bending forward a lot, you need to bend by using your knees. And if you have a twisting activities, try to twist it from the ankles only. If you have a flat feet, try to have a proper soles in your shoes. Try to have a proper, if you don't have a sole, to use a silicone sole in your feet as well. If you have a knee problem, that can also lead to a low back pain because of the like imbalance between the muscles as well. So you need to strengthen your quadriceps, hamstring muscles, and always remember not to cross the leg while you are working on systems and everything. You need to have a proper posture, you need to have a proper muscle like muscle length as well. So while you are sitting and doing any work for a long period of time, don't over exaggerate over or give undue pressure on any side of the muscle. A muscle imbalance will also cause a back pain as well. So thank you.
How is the answer?
What is the back pain common after delivery? Because of just I told you that because of the laxity of the joint, there is SI joint dysfunction also. It is most common after delivery. So you need to use a cold pack for that and try to strengthen your core by doing the bridging and Superman exercise after delivery.
So what happens during pregnancy is the female body releases relaxin hormone. So this relaxin is actually, essential for increasing the elasticity of the muscle. So once the delivery is done, the relaxin hormone is not immediately withdrawn. So the muscle does not regain the tone which it normally had before pregnancy. So one has to be very regular with the exercises, and the most important of it is just do regular walks, and that is the reason for back pain that is most common after delivery.
If we take painless during labor, does it lead to a back pain for life?
So one has to understand this thing. So there is a lot of misconception having spinal anesthesia or epidural anesthesia for delivery and causing the back pain. These two things are totally not related to each other. So the spinal anesthesia or epidural injection in the back has no relation whatsoever with your back pain. It is primarily, the only reason is mechanical. It's a withdrawal of the relaxin hormone, and it is just the hypotonicity of your muscle post pregnancy that is causing the back pain. It is totally not related to your spinal or the epidural injection that is given for painless delivery or for the cesarean section.
Secondly, because of the like most of the patient have while during pregnancy have a habit of sitting like this, basically giving
Absolutely.
pressure.
So the abdominal muscle, the uterus is heavy, so one has to bend more forwards than keeping a erect posture because of the weight of the baby itself. So that is another reason for mechanical back pain.
A mother of 82 years has a PID from last 10 years. Doctor suggested it is advised.
So one has to importantly understand, one query is there for the mother of 82 years who is suffering from an prolapsed intervertebral disc. It is not primarily the prolapsed intervertebral disc at this stage. It's a complex nature in the spine. So the disc will degenerate. As the disc degenerates, the facet joint, which is the joint of the spine, they enlarge, and in totality they decrease the space that is available for the nerves. The most common cause for this is a lumbar canal stenosis at this age. So one has to understand at this age, the functionality of the patient is the most important thing. So if yes, the daily needs of her daily activities of your mother are affected, one should go in for surgery because the surgery is very, very safe. The international reported rate of any complication in spine surgery as of today is 0.01%. With the advent of good radiography available inside the OT, the availability of neuromonitoring system inside the OT, everything has become very safe. So if yes, the daily activities are suffering and surgery is the only left option, one should opt for it. So this is a 32-year-old guy who is suffering from ankylosing spondylitis for past 10 years. It is very important for you to understand, sir, that ankylosing spondylitis, the disease, is an inflammatory disorder in which the bones of the body just keeps on, fusing with each other. So you must have read it on Google. So the most common radiological thing that is described for ankylosing spondylitis is a bamboo spine. So your spine, will fuse with the period of time, and it will be a one long bone rather than multiple small bones and giving you the flexibility. And your posture of the body is, going to be forwards too. For the most important thing which I would like to emphasize for you is probably when a fused bone is not moving, it cannot have pain. So it is much more important for you to understand, for you any back pain will be a fracture in a bone, it is unless proven otherwise. So you can't take your back pain lightly. You must consider taking an expert guidance if you are suffering from back pain. Because a fused spine cannot have a back pain.
The swimming, tennis, cricket help in recurring back pain. I get with sports, I can use as a journal exercise, become boy. Basically, you can continue with all these activities. If you are getting a back pain, this is not the reason. There might be a muscle weakness, or your flexibility is not appropriate for all these games. So you need to have make a schedule of having a light aerobic exercise 3 days in a week, with 3 days doing core muscle activities and 1 day relaxation, and then you can go back to all these activities, and it will definitely not give you any back pain, because swimming will also help you to have a good muscle strength and upper back strength. Tennis is not causing any. In this game, there is no any posture that will cause a direct back pain, and even the cricket you cannot. So have a proper flexibility and the strength of the core muscle, which usually stabilize our upper body on our pelvis. So try to have a proper core muscle strength and flexibility, then you will not gonna have these kinds of recurrent back pain.
So ma'am, as a teacher, you must be having a standing job, and a lot of desk work has to be done. So you have to understand the neck pain primarily is mechanical, or at times a stress related psychosomatic pain. So one has to undergo a clinical examination so as to find whether you have a trigger areas in the neck or no. If you have trigger areas, then it's primarily a more of a psychosomatic pain, and dry needling is a very good technique for you. Otherwise, at home for now during the lockdown period, just apply hot packs, some over the counter gel, some anti-inflammatory over the counter for some few days. But you must emphasize on have a regular habit of walks, keeping your erect posture while sitting, and do not sit for long. You keep on changing posture every half an hour. So if you are getting headaches after your neck pain, it's not actually that simple that you can diagnose it as a migraine, because migraine usually have an aura, so that the patient gets to know that he's going to have a headache now. So it's not 100% rule, but yes, the migraine, as we call it, the standard protocol, we usually present with an aura. But yes, neck pain itself can cause a headache just because the neck, the muscle where it inserts, it's a suboccipital muscle. So the nerve supply of the scalp area and the muscle where it is inserting inside your skull bone is the same. So it is what we call as a referred pain. So the pain is actually at the site where the muscle is inserting into the bone. But due to the same nerve supply over the scalp area and the affected area, the pain may be referred or radiate to that area. So it is important for you to understand that Labeling it as migraine or no would require a clinical examination actually.
Or it may be kind of cervicogenic.
Absolutely.
Headache.
So as a general rule, no, the cold pack or head pack, whichever, what is better, nobody's, internationally, there's no study about it. So one has to understand whether the cold packs or hot packs are helping you. Whatever is helping you more is good enough. But yes, after the injury for the first 3 days, hot should be avoided because it increases the blood flow and increases swelling. So during the time of injury, we do recommend a cold pack in the initial few days, followed by the hot pack later, so that it increases the blood flow and promote healing. But as a general rule, whether the cold or the hot pack is better, there is no consensus on that. But whatever is helping you better is good for you. So the difference between now generation and our generation was like, yes, nobody is going out to play. It is important for you to understand that we are healthier than the new generation just because we used to play outside. So it is important for you to emphasize on your kids to play outside, have some hobby which is has some aerobic component to it. He may like to do swimming, he may like to play tennis, he may like to play cricket, and one should just encourage it. So there is no basic exercise for your back, but yes, there should be a component of some aerobic exercise in the form of walk, treadmill, Zumba, Pilates, swimming, or something or general exercise for your kids to be having an active life. Because I compare myself to my grandparents, and they never used to do any exercise as such. They just used to walk a lot. So I think there is a lot of emphasis that has to be put on just general walk rather than being putting on exercises.
Secondly, you need to look for the screen of the laptop. It should be at least 18 to 24 inches apart from the for classes as well. The height of the screen should be at the eye level of the child or the kid, so he or she don't need to bend the neck a lot. Secondly, give a proper chair with a proper back support. If you don't have a back support, try to give one cushion or pillow for supporting the back. The arm, if there is an armrest, it should be at the optimal height of the kid, and if not, so try to place the hand over the table in which the laptop has been kept.
So, sir, hanging from the bar is generally, not an actual exercise we prescribe for the back. It is generally prescribed by us for a deformity of the spine, such as scoliosis. So, where we encourage the child, to hang from the hand where she has the convexity of the curve. But as a general rule, hanging from bar from our side is no contraindication or does not hold any harm to the child. But as an exercise, yes, aerobic exercises are much better than just hanging from the bar. So difficult to say whether your back pain and shin pain are related to each other without clinical examination. However, may not be related. There is something called as a chronic compartment syndrome, which are usually seen in a football player or a sportsman, where when you regularly play, your calf muscle increases in bulk, but the compartment of the leg is fixed, so the fascia doesn't stretch, and that is one of the major common cause for a shin pain in a football player or a sportsman. But whether they are actually related to your back and it is the back pain that is relating to your shin is difficult to say without clinical examination. So ma'am, your calf pain at night, I am not sure whether you are diabetic or not, but usually the night pain in the calves are usually due to, either a micronutrient deficiency such as a vitamin D deficiency or a calcium deficiency or a vitamin B12 deficiency. And if in case you are diabetic, then there is something called as a peripheral neuropathy, where because of the uncontrolled or maybe controlled diabetes for the long years, causes significant changes in the nerve conduction itself. So your night cramps basically could be because of the micronutrient deficiency or a peripheral neuropathy. But looking at your age, you must consider taking vitamin D and calcium on a regular basis for a few months and then see if it improves. So for you, particularly at the age of 47, when you're diabetic and in the CKD, I'm not sure whether you are on regular dialysis or not, and have been taking a regular. I'm sure the nephrologist of yours must have prescribed a regular dose of vitamin D. But it is important for you to understand that you should not take your back pain lightly because of the comorbidities you have. It may be a general mechanical pain that you are suffering from, but it is very common for a diabetic and a CKD patient to have an infection of the spine as well. So if your pain you feel is increasing with the time, or the pattern of your pain is opposite of what is normal, like you have pain more at rest, you have pain more while sleeping, turning in bed is painful, getting up in the morning from the bed is painful, you must seek an expert of guidance. Thank you everyone. Thank you.